Hello, and welcome back to another episode of I Smell Fraud. This is going to be the third episode, so the third country. And as I said, this is mostly for my own purposes so that I can remember when I'm old everything that I did during the last 10, 15 years or 20 years in terms of traveling. And today we're going to go to Angola. It's going to be the third country. So after we started with Albania, went to Andorra, and now Angola, which is a bit more of a fraud case or more than one fraud case. And we will go a bit into that when we go into the details of the audit itself or the investigation. So um, the first thing about Angola, I mean, if you are Portuguese, you are well acquainted with the country. It's located in the southern part of Africa. Um, it was a colony of Portugal from the late 15th century to 1975 or 76. I don't remember exactly at the moment. So shortly after the revolution in Portugal, the democratic revolution in Portugal, all the colonies or ultramarine possessions were overseas, not ultramarine. What's a stupid thing to say? Overseas possessions were given independence, with exception at the time of Macau, uh, and that was the only exception. So Angola was one of them. We, or the Portuguese, had been in colonial war, which also had Angola as one of the stages um, since the beginning of the 60s. Um, and there were two independents, or three actually, but two main independence parties that were dividing the country and would divide the country for the next until the beginning of the 21st century. That would be MPLA, so the Communist Party, and UNITA, that's the one that was backed by the US, so more center to right wing. One had oil, the other one had the diamonds. So Angola is very rich in mineral resources, and the leader from UNITA was shot dead. Um, I don't know exactly the year, but it was around the turn of the century. And since then, the MPLA, which had ruled the country, rules almost unopposed. First through Eduardo Santos, who was present for many years, and then to he well, when he died, the power went to a general, which is still there at the moment. Um, Overall, Angola as a country, it's situated, yeah, like I said, in the southern west of Africa. It's surrounded by the Democratic Republic of the Congo in the north, Zambia in the east, and then Namibia in the south. It does have like a small piece of land here, which is, yeah, it's tied between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Congo Republic, which is Cabinda, and it's also a place with a lot of oil. So oil has been basically the main um, development of the country, or the main um, export of this country for many years. They do have diamonds, like I said, but oil is the biggest one. And back in when the country became a bit more stable, because the country went through a lot of civil wars during many years. So, with the turn of the century, international companies that were not oil related, the oil ones were always there, started to invest a bit in the country. And with the good cycle of oil prices going up, the country became extremely expensive. There was a time that Luanda, the capital, was the most expensive city in the world. If you use the dollar ratio. Of course, there was black market for the local currency, the kwanza, but it was still extremely expensive. So the first time that I went there was back in 2015. The company that I worked for also opened up um, a branch there. Only, to be honest, it was very hard to get people to go to Angola. So the first ones that went there were a bit of I would say a bit of misfits or people that wanted to get ahead in their career, but there was no path in other countries. So there was a bit of a loose bunch. Um, the first time that I went there, like I said, it was 2015. At the time, I was doing some investigations in this part of Africa. I had been to Lusaka in Zambia, and further I went to Mauritius afterwards. But in the middle, I did this 3 days here in Luanda, and what what I can tell you is that this also did not go well. So at the time, we were looking to work with this company that we had been doing business for many years, and they were selling some products to the state. And after digging through and some people that came forward saying that there was bribes being paid by this company, then it was clear from their books and from their bank accounts that there was something fishy. Um, they always would tell that this is the way to do business in Angola, and I'm sure that a lot of people do business that way. But when you work with an international company, um, there's a certain limit that you cannot pass, and this was one of them. Here, interesting, and this will tie up to the second visit, was that the company was this specific company was owned by four gentlemen. Two of them had also Portuguese passports and were born there. Had been born in Angola, but were, of course, they were. One of them was white, and they had double nationality. And I think this guy was the white one, just an older gentleman, already with white beard and everything. He was really the mastermind of this whole thing. I mean, it was a pretty standard investigation where you find something and you just go home. At the time, I stayed in this Hotel Tropico, that was in the middle of Luanda, and something extremely interesting. And this is a view from the street. The It's remarkable still nowadays how similar it looks to some parts of Lisbon. Just disregard yeah, the dirt and all that, and well, even the bad parking. To be honest, similar to Lisbon, but there's this kind of buildings. The architecture is so similar to some parts of Lisbon that were built between the Second World War and the 70s. So yeah, interesting. The hotel was itself just your standard of the meal thing. My room looked. I mean, this was more than 10 years ago, but it looked similar to this. One thing that I found good is that I was on the road for weeks already, and I hadn't been back home to Portugal um, for quite a while. And when I got there, I ordered room service for codfish. They had codfish, and yeah, this was a highlight for me. And they also had the Portuguese channels on TV, especially the sports channels. And I actually saw at the time, I think I arrived like during early afternoon, ordered this room service, and laid down watching I believe it was the final of the Portuguese Cup of that year, 2015, but that's only from memory, so I cannot say anymore. Anyway, here interesting is that then we went to the branch, and at the time the CEO of this branch, or the general manager, had gone into some yeah, some more hidden parts of Angola into the jungle, and he had bought a monkey. He bought a small monkey for his kids, and nobody had told him. So these were the kind of people that we had back then in these countries. Nobody had told him that the monkey could have any disease, including AIDS, and he could just bite the kids or something like that. So it was wild. I mean, it was still, and it still is a wild country. If you go a bit outside of the main cities, especially outside of Luanda, and all this money that they made didn't really go into the population. It went to the pockets of a very few kleptocrats and yeah, government officials, and also some companies that that would pay bribes and something like that. Um, about the prices, that was another thing. Cards did not work so well in Angola at this time, so you had to bring money, or I was told to bring cash, so USD. And the hotel price, I remember it was around $400 a night for this hotel here, and this was not luxury. It was like a standard four-star hotel. I even have here the bill, 40,000 kwanza per night, and this was paid in USD. And at the time, the kwanza was not what it is today in terms of today's super. The inflation has been crazy in Angola in the last 10 years, but this was like 40,000 was close. It was around 400 euros, um, and we you had to pay it in cash when you arrive, all like the whole amount. So I stayed this 2 nights, and basically it was 800 euros for a hotel. That's, as you see in the pictures. I mean, not sure this is the. I didn't go to the swimming pool, to be honest. Don't remember even going to the restaurant or anything like that. I just remember being in the room, and then back in the morning. Um, the hotel looks okay, but it's nothing special. I don't even remember the breakfasts. I do remember the building though. So this was in 2015. 2019, I actually flew directly from Lisbon. At that time, the prices had gone down significantly in Angola. This was mostly due to, yeah, the oil prices have had gone down. The country started to have a much higher inflation, and at that time I stayed in the outskirts of Luanda, in a place called Talatona. Um, I stayed at this hotel, conventions hotel in Talatona, and I went there with a colleague. And the first thing was that we arrived um, out of Lisbon in the flight. I think it was early in the morning, and or late in the evening. I'm not sure. It was like either early or very late. And I remember that we went to the reception, passports in hand, our reservations, and it took us literally 1 hour to get the guy to do the check-in. It was extremely slow. Half of the time we didn't even know what what we were waiting for. And there were no other I mean, there was maybe one other person coming into the check-in or into reception during this whole period. So it was really, it was bizarre. I mean, you kind of get used to in Africa that things run slower than in other parts of the world, but this was completely extreme. And we had a similar situation then one of the days that we decided to have dinner in this hotel at night, and we ordered some kind of some steak, like Portuguese steak style with egg on top, and it also took forever. It wasn't even, as you would say, like they take forever to do your food, but then to pay it's normally quick. No, it took forever to do your food. It took forever to actually pay. I mean, we were ready to pay. They had bought the receipt at the time. To be honest, you could already pay without any issues in with cards, especially with Portuguese cards. Um, and this was just extraordinary. I think I'd never been to a place that was so slow as the things in this hotel, and I've been to a lot of weird places. Um, this one on the compliance side, something very interesting. The other gentleman that I talked about, the white one, uh, he decided to basically start a new company somewhere, sometime after 2015. And since the company that I worked for said that we are not doing business with someone that is corrupt, and it doesn't matter if he started a new company or not, he cannot have ownership of that company. But it was not an issue if he worked for some company. It was just, I mean, the ownership had to be different. So basically, this guy became the general. He was the owner, and he sold. I don't remember if it was all the shares or if it was just the largest chunk to an individual, and um, and became the general manager, while this individual was in fact the owner. So in this investigation, sometimes we perform, or normally we do perform also interviews, and I was there on site, and and I had some questions, and I was in the room together with my colleague, and there was the white guy, some other financial director or something from this new company, and the new owner, which was, I would say, a young guy in his early 20s, maybe. And the young guy barely spoke. Um, so we asked that everyone else would leave the room, and we wanted to have just a one on one discussion with the owner. And when we started discussing it, so the owner was actually, so this white dude had a farm, or it's not really a farm. It's like some land where they cultivate stuff in Angola, somewhere in the outskirts of Luanda or a bit into the country. And he was the one of the persons that made sure that the place was running smoothly, in the sense that he was like, I don't even know what to call this. He was just a supervisor of the whole small farm, and he had been born in, I'd say, in poverty. He could not speak a single word of English. He was, I mean, he said that his salary, or that what he was getting from the company, was around $500 a month, which for Angola in that level is like nothing. And when I asked him if he was the owner of the company, he said yes. And then when I asked how much he paid for it, he had no idea. So it was clear that he was just the owner on paper. The other dude had just made some document giving him all or the majority of the company, and probably agreeing that after the investigation, he would buy it all back or get it all back. And he just signed some documents. He dressed up in nice clothes, and and went there to trick us. Another thing, we asked him, so where do you live? And he was like, I lived in this farm. I have like in the barn, I have like a bed there. It's like, we're talking about the company that was selling, for example, military equipment to to the Air Force, or the army in Angola, for a few millions of dollars. And the owner was didn't have his own house, and was sleeping in a barn. Yeah, so we quickly got out of there. Said no business ever with anything that this guy is related to, and that was about it. The other day, of course, we went to the branch, and this dude with a monkey, he had been fired in the meantime. He was also too cozy with some of the ministries, and some of the important people, officials from the country, which at this time was going a bit downhill. Anyway, the prices here were already like halved at least for this hotel, and I could not find the receipt anymore, or I could search for it, but there's no point here. It was not as high as back in 2015, so the country was not as good as before. And that was it. That was the two times that I've been to Angola, always Luanda. And yeah, so the next one will be actually a much more interesting one. Again, I don't have any photos of Angola. And this I need to. I got better after a while doing photos, but it's just something that didn't interest me at the time, and it's a pity. But the next one is going to be a bigger country that I've been many, many times. I have also some very interesting stories about it. So next episode, we're going into Argentina. Thank you very much, and I hope that you enjoyed the video and the conversation. If you have any questions, just let me know. See you next time. Goodbye.